snuck out of the house. I went to Chase and I put his card in. I put in the PIN code and it was accepted. And I clicked the lovely button that said check balance. And what was in his account? 34 cents. And we will continue on in part 18.
So guys, this is part 5. There's a whole lot of things that I'm holding back, but I really want to watch the entire series. Before I say anything. So let's go check out part 5 and then we'll come back and talk more.
The Danish Deception, Part 17. Okay, so I get a notification from immigration, log into my account, and long behold, the petition was approved. And I remember I was relieved for a few reasons. The first one is that, obviously we get to start building life here together in Dallas, but also if there was any skeletons from his past, I feel like it would not have been approved. So I almost felt like relief whenever I saw that. And so I called him, and obviously he was excited. We called our lawyer, asking her, what are the next steps? And she said, well, you can stay in the States next time you come, and we can file for a work visa and a travel visa, but you're not gonna be able to go back to Denmark. And at this point, he was like, since my dad's passed, like I can work remote. Work's been a little bit slow, so I can work remote. Obviously, I might have to pull some all-nighters, which isn't ideal, but it's worth it to be with you. And so I said, okay, that's fine. After a couple of weeks, he comes back to Dallas, and he comes with his mom this time. This is her first time in the United States. And I remember just being so excited, and I wanted her to have the best time because, she's just lost her husband of 50 years. And I go to DFW to pick them up. I had a big sign saying, welcome to Dallas, and I also got his mom some flowers, and it was just such a special moment. She had like this American flag draped around her, and she's just like so proud to be in the States. So we come back home, I cooked dinner, and we just spent the week exploring Dallas, and then we had gone to Key West for about 5 days. We did Miami and Key West with his mom, and I will say a lot of that trip was paid for by his mom. She wanted to cover a lot of it, which was just so sweet. And then I remember I paid for the flights, and then he paid for a bunch of stuff while we got there, but she paid for most of the hotel. So we all kind of paid for a little bit. But I know y'all haven't forgotten this man still owes me money. And so I remember we were in Key West, and I said, hey, are you gonna start sending me some funds? And it was awkward because I wanted to bring it up for a while, but then, we went to Panama, he paid for everything, and then his dad passed away, and I didn't, it's just, now it's getting kind of awkward for me to bring it up. And so he's like, yeah, I'm gonna send you some money. We go through the trip in Key West, have a good time, come back to the States. He still hasn't sent me money. He's giving me kind of the turnaround, and I'm getting a little antsy, and I'm getting very triggered. And so we're in the living room, and he says he wants to just go on the balcony and get some fresh air. And I start creeping. I walk up to the window, and I'm trying to look over his shoulder at his phone, and he doesn't know I'm looking. And on his phone, I see there's a gambling website, and my stomach is in knots, and his mom is currently in the living room with me. So there's nothing that I can really say, because again, I'm still wanting to protect him. And again, I will repeat this one more time. I wanted to tell everyone about his addiction and our issues. I wanted to tell the world, but he very much said, everyone's gonna view me differently. With the excuse with his mom, he was like, she's an old woman, you're gonna stress her out, and she's not gonna be able to do anything about it, and now she's just stressed. So he was able to manipulate me into not bringing it up to anyone. And so his mom is here, and I don't say a word. Instead, I send him a text, and I just say, and it's weird, because he's in the same, he's 5 feet from me, and I send him a text saying, I see a gambling website on your phone, I'm gonna need to see your bank statements as soon as possible. And he tells me, I'm only on this website because that's where I can watch sports for free. And I was just like, huh? This makes no sense. Obviously, I'm detecting all the bullshit. So I say, I want to see your bank statements right now. He pulls them up, and at this point, he has his Revolut statements, which I don't know if you guys remember, the very first time I sent him money, I downloaded an app called Revolut. Kind of like Venmo. He uses that for a lot of things in the States because you basically get the local currency rate if you use Revolut, and he had a physical card that was tied to his Revolut. So I wanted to see that. So he printed out, or didn't print out, he showed me the statements directly from his phone for Revolut, and then he showed me his Danish bank account and the transactions. And I went through everything with a fine-tooth comb over the course of months and did not see anything alarming at all. So obviously I saw this gambling website on his phone, but I checked his bank accounts, I didn't see anything. So I let it go, but I was very clear, I better not ever see this on your phone ever, ever, ever again. So his mom leaves after having a great trip, and at this point I'm still waiting for these transfers, and I'm like, what's going on? And he keeps telling me that he has things to pay for. Like he said he was helping his mom out with something, and then he said that he had another insurance payment, and there was a few things that he said he had. And then finally I'm like, okay, I'm done with the bullshit. Like, you need to start transferring me some money. And so basically he tells me that he's transferred a certain amount. He has a transfer limit that he can transfer to his Revolut, which is how he can send me money. And he's like hit his monthly transfer limit. I don't really know what the fuck that means, but he said he hit it. And so I'm still very frustrated, but he basically says that he can't send me any more money until August timeframe. And during that time, his best friend came to visit, and the same best friend that was with him whenever I met him in Croatia. And what my ex didn't know was that I was in communication with his best friend, talking to him about the gambling, the issues. I didn't tell my ex that I was talking to him, but I just wanted to speak to someone from his past. Obviously, keep in mind that I don't have a lot of people to talk to, so it just made me feel a lot less alone. But basically, I'm putting more pressure on my ex, being like, hey, like, you need to start sending me money. And keep in mind, I'm also paying for like most of the household bills, and now like he's here full time. Like, you gotta pitch in, bro. And I'm not here to be your sugar mama, even though I have low-key been your sugar mama unintentionally. So I'm getting frustrated, and we get a notification that his work visa has been approved. And so I'm excited about this because this means that he can get a social, he can get a bank account. And something to keep in mind is when you're married to a gambling addict, you wanna make sure you take full financial control. And that was hard for me to do because with his Danish bank account, he had like a 2-factor authentication that scanned his face, so I couldn't just like log in whenever. But with Chase, I was like, all I need is a password. So we go to Chase, he opens up a bank account, and he says, I'm just gonna make a transfer from my Danish bank directly to my Chase bank, and then I'll be able to start sending you money via Zelle. And I'm like, okay, perfect, that works. Because he had like this limit on Revolut, or I couldn't remember the details, but I remember it didn't make sense. And every time I pressured him like for it to make more sense, he would gaslight me, and so we wouldn't get anywhere. And so I was getting very frustrated. But I'm like, okay, now you have Chase. So he tells me that he makes a big transfer to Chase, and that he is waiting for that to hit. And a couple days go by, I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh yeah, okay, the transfer hit. And he shows me an email from Chase, and it said, like, we need to verify your identity. And he's like, oh, Chase is asking for this verification, and because I haven't done this verification, my account's locked. I'm like, okay, stop bullshitting. I know Chase. I go to Chase. I've been banking at Chase for a long time, and I felt like he was bullshitting. And so he said, you know what, let's go to the bank and talk about it, because, I mean, I know I have money in there because I made this transfer like a while ago. And I said, okay, let's go to Chase. And this is when I start like thinking to myself, you know what, I'm gonna play a game. We're gonna go to Chase, and I'm gonna try to get out of the car and go into the bank with him. If he says, no, you should just wait in the car, I'm gonna know he's hiding something. And I really just wanted to see how he would react. So we go to Chase, he gets out of the car, and I start to get out of the car. He's like, oh, I'm just gonna be in and out, babe, you can just wait in the car. And I'm like, red flag. And you know what, I let him do his thing. I let him go inside. I'm like, okay, let's see what he comes back with. So he comes back and he says, hey, I'm able to take out, like, it was like $1,000 he's able to send to me. And he's like, here's like $1,000. I go, at this point, he told me he was gonna send me like 5,000. And so I'm like, what's going on? Are you lying? He was like, no, I'm not lying. I was like, well, I'm tired of carrying this relationship on my back, and I'm over it. And that was like, this is when I start really standing up for myself and telling him that I'm just done with the bullshit. And he gets so angry with me. I remember he had his gym bag in the car because the plan was for us to go to the bank, me drop him off at the bank, or me drop him off at the gym, and then I was gonna go to a showing. I drop him off at the gym, and he slams the car door. He goes, don't worry about picking me up, I'll walk home. And I get home, and I'm like, can we please talk about this, because I wanna squash this. He goes, the way you talked to me was so disrespectful, and I'm not okay with it. There's money in that account. And I said, listen, I'm getting triggered. Like, I feel like you're lying about a lot of things, and it's making me feel like you're gambling. So I just need you to tell me the truth. He's like, I am telling you the truth. And like, you disrespected me, making me feel like less of a man, that like you've, you know, supported us more than I have. And I was like, I'm not trying to make you feel like less of a man. I'm just telling you that I'm tired of carrying this shit on my back. And he storms off, goes upstairs, goes in the guest bedroom, closes the door, and he refuses to talk to me and like locks the door. And I'm like, what is going on? I remember just being so angry because I'm like, you're the one with the addiction, you're the one that's hurt me, and somehow you're finding a way to put it all on me, and that's not okay. So I remember being really upset. And so basically I had a work event that night, and I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to go. And then finally I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go. I need to get out of the house. So I go. And at this point, it's really hard for me to hide my emotions. And a lot of the people at my last real estate firm probably remember this event. I showed up and I just was like bawling my eyes out, and like a lot of people didn't know what was going on, but I was just really, really sad and struggling a lot because I just felt like I was being gaslit. And I remember there was one of my coworkers and we were sitting in a corner at this event, and I actually ended up telling her about my ex's addiction because I just, in that moment, needed to talk to someone about it. And she was so sweet, so welcoming. Shout out to you, you know who you are. And so basically I go back home and he's upstairs in the bedroom, not wanting to talk to me. So I'm like, can we please talk? He's like, I don't want to talk to you. And I was like, okay. So basically I'm on the couch, and it kind of worked out because we have some really good friends that they have cars that they use for Toro that they own, and we had picked up one of their cars because they were out of town earlier that day, and their car was outside and the keys were right on the counter. And so I was like, you know what? I know the PIN code to his Danish card. I bet it's the same PIN code for his Chase card. And so what I did was I grabbed the key to the car, my friend's car, and I like kind of sneakily snuck out of the house because I didn't want him to hear the garage be like, where's she going? So I snuck out of the house, I went to Chase, and I put his card in, I put in the PIN code, and it was accepted. And I clicked the lovely button that said check balance. And what was in his account? 34 cents. And we will continue on in part 18. The Danish deception, part 18. Where did we leave off at? Oh yeah, 34 cents. So I look at his bank balance and it's 34 cents. And at this point it's 1 a.m., which is why I was super sneaky with the way I got into my friend's car and went to the ATM because I didn't want him to hear the garage and be like, where's she going? So when I came home, I literally popped melatonin and went to bed. I didn't even want to open that can of worms because it's late at night. So the next morning I wake up, I look at him, I go, I have something to bring up to you and you better not lie, and I don't even think you're gonna be able to lie. He goes, what is it? Then I pull up the phone because I, took a picture of his bank balance. I'm like, this is actually the balance in your bank account. And he just looks at me and he's at a loss for words. And for a narcissist, that's the most beautiful thing in the world when they have literally nothing to say. But I remember just looking at him and saying, you're a liar. You don't have any money in your account. You're supposed to be the one responsible for bills. And I know you're gambling. And he told me, I am 100% not gambling. I promise you the transfer was supposed to hit and it didn't hit. And I felt like if I told you I didn't receive the money, you would have thought I was lying. So let me get this straight. Instead of telling me the truth, you lied to me because you were afraid that I was gonna think you were lying. Makes perfect sense. So at that point, I'm just so irritated and just honestly disgusted by him. And I told him, well, listen, I don't want to be around you today until you tell me the truth of what's going on. Because at this point, I felt like he was gambling and I just didn't want to talk to him. So I luckily had a few showings, went to the showings, and my best friend, Neka, who lives here in Dallas, calls me. And I'm not even kidding, I answer the phone and I immediately start crying. And she's like, come over. I said, okay, I'm on my way. So I go to her house and I sit her down and I tell her everything. And this was just a very, very, very heartbreaking time for me because this is now another close friend that I'm letting in. And I'm telling you all, when I let it out, I let it out. And it was just so heartbreaking. And she was such a good friend. She just listened to me. She didn't tell me you need to leave him, even though at this point I felt like there's no way he's gonna change, but I'm still so blinded by love and still very much brainwashed to think that this man is everything to me. And I decided to go back home and I had a conversation with him and I said, listen, I'm just gonna start distancing myself right now. I don't know where to go from here. I feel like you're always lying to me and it's getting really, really difficult. And so it was a couple days and we're still like getting along, but he can definitely tell that I'm pulling back because I still know that there's something he's hiding. And something to keep in mind is that he has a Danish phone and he has a US phone because when he got his work visa approved, he got a US number, especially when he was applying for jobs. He didn't want to put like a Danish phone number, which makes sense. And so for the most part, he was using his US phone. While he was here, he would use his Danish phone like at nighttime. But his US phone is what he used to communicate with everyone. So the Danish phone, he actually leave that out all the time. And so he was downstairs, I was upstairs. I see his Danish phone on the nightstand, and I'm not ashamed to admit that at this point I had been going through his phone very frequently. So I open up his phone, go to the Safari page, open up, see the gambling website that's just right in front of my face, and I am just gut-wrenched. And I can see how much money he can gamble and what he's betting on. And I kid you not, first of all, it was $5,000 that he was gambling. And second of all, he was gambling on the most random sports in the most random countries that I'm like, what is this? Like, this makes no sense. And I go downstairs with his phone And I'm bawling my eyes out at this point because I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm exhausted, I'm so tired. And at this point, I'm asking myself, like, how can I still be in love with this man when he causes me this much pain? Like, and the craziest part was that he was still lying. He said, I told you I watched sports on that website. And I was like, you're an idiot. Like, you are an idiot. Like, you're gambling. I can see the money in there. So either you want to be honest with me or get out of the house because I don't even want to look at your face. And so he keeps trying to lie to me, keeps trying to bullshit me. And then I'd say, you know what? I'm just going to pack my bags and just go to my friend's house. And then he said, okay, I'll leave. I'll go to the gym. I'll go run some errands. So he leaves the house and I'm sitting there. The first thing I do is call crypto and I'm literally in tears. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say. And he said, Anyeka, this is literally not your fault. You are doing everything you can to be a supportive spouse to this man, and it's not your fault that he cannot stop lying to you. And he had told me previously, like, we had owed them $200,000, but he said the amount of crypto that my ex had borrowed from him at that time was $160K. And so he said, listen, because that's the amount that he borrowed at the time, obviously the crypto had gone up. I think it had gone up to like 300K at that point. And when his wife had brought it up to me, it had gone up to 200K, gone up even higher. He said, how about you guys just pay us the original amount that was borrowed? And I said, I just feel like that's not fair to you. And he said, I promise you I'm okay. Another reason to just love crypto. He's amazing. And one thing he said to me was that if you're not seeing him want the progress for himself, that's when there's a problem. So you need to know when you've had enough, and you need to know if he's not taking this seriously and taking his recovery seriously. And I agreed with him. And, you know, I will be honest, like, I, in that moment, was not ready to leave him. I still was fully in love with him, still fully brainwashed into thinking that he was this great person. So crypto said we could skip that month's payment and then pick back up the next month because he knew I was, you know, carrying everything on my back, and he didn't want me to bleed myself dry because of my ex's issues. And, you know, it's kind of messed up that I was even the one that was having these conversations with him and not my ex. And I just took ownership because I've never owed anyone money before, and I wanted to do what was right, and I wanted to be respectful of him. And so I also told him, just so you know, like, he has a business account that's going to be opened back up in July because, you know, it had an 18-month hold. So once that's lifted, we'll be able to pay you back the rest of the money that we owe you. So keep that in mind. We're going to obviously pick back up on the payment, so you will be made whole. And he said, okay, that's totally fine. And so we left it at that. My ex comes home and I sit him down, and this is the first time that I bring up divorce. And I tell him, right now, I don't know if I can be in this marriage anymore, and I really am contemplating filing for divorce and calling my parents and telling them everything. And he said, please, like, I cannot lose you. I'm going to get better. He said, I want to get better. Like, I want to get better for me and for you. And so I said, at this point, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to sit back and watch you, and I'll decide if I want to stay with you. And he said, okay, I'll prove it to you. So over the course of the next, I will say, 4 months, this was October 2024. And over the course of the next 4 months, like I said, I'm not going to just sit here and ramble. I'm trying to get to the good part, guys. I promise. I remember his mom had come back to visit us for Thanksgiving. She met my parents. It went great. The following month, my mom came back, spent Christmas with us. Things were going good. And I remember when January hit, I was like almost a little bit excited because I was like, this is the year the business account's going to open up. And it had been about 3 months since his relapse, and I felt like he was making a lot of effort to get better. He was going to GA meetings, he was going to therapy, he was having money in his account, all the good signs. And he had the 2 apartments in Copenhagen and was putting in a notice to kick the tenants out so that he could sell those apartments. So basically the plan was to use the business account to pay for our wedding, to pay off crypto, and then we were gonna sell the 2 apartments, and that was gonna be like our base to start like investing and build our foundation here in Dallas. And we had kind of delayed wedding planning because, you know, we wanted to be smart financially. We're not gonna plan a wedding a year after all this stuff happened. And also, like, you know, we wanted to prioritize paying back crypto. But we were looking at the numbers, and with the business account, we were gonna be able to make crypto whole, and we'd have some extra money for the wedding. And in addition to that, you know, we were both making an income, so we were starting to talk about wedding plans. Obviously, I'm Nigerian and my parents are very traditional, and I love my culture, and I was excited to do a traditional wedding. And I was talking to my parents about what I wanted, and I was like, maybe we could do a wedding in Nigeria. And, you know, they were really excited about it. They were hyped to plan it. You know, they loved my ex, and, you know, we were getting excited. And so my mom said that they were going to go starting to look at venues and all the things. And at this point, I kind of figured that my parents were going to cover the traditional wedding because we were going to cover the white wedding. When I say white wedding, I mean white dress. So traditional wedding, the Nigerian wedding, white wedding is like white dress walking down the aisle. So in case you hear me say that, not because I'm marrying a white guy. So I'm talking wedding plans with my mom, and she brings up finances. And that's when she proceeds to tell me that my ex has told her that he is going to pay for both weddings in full. And I'm sitting there just confused because I'm thinking about the money that we have coming in and our two salaries. I'm like, okay, we're good to pay back crypto and we're good for our white wedding. But we don't have any wiggle room to pay for an additional wedding. So I call him up, and at this point I'm angry. I go, why did you commit to paying for a wedding without telling me? And I will continue on in part 19. The Danish deception, part 19. And I don't want to waste y'all's time, so this part's actually going to cover between January 2025 and July of 2025. Okay, so I call my ex, and I'm just so confused. Why did you commit to paying $10,000 for this wedding? I just do not understand. And he said, well, you know, I really just wanted to help your parents out. And now I understand narcissists have this need and desire to be admired, and that's where it came from. It wasn't just him wanting to be a good person. But I was super frustrated, and we talked about it, went back and forth. I'm like, we don't have to do this. Like, my parents are very generous. I know they'd be more than happy to like pay for the wedding. But he said, no, like, let's just give them something. Let's give them 10,000. I was like, I just feel like we don't need to do that. He's like, no, let's do it. So I call my mom and my dad, and I said, hey, are you guys comfortable with us paying 10,000? And they're like, absolutely, that's fine. Like, we'll cover the rest. And they loved my ex, and they were excited for this wedding. And side note, I had communicated to my parents about the business account. So I told them, we're going to end up paying you in July, if that's okay with you, just because we had a bunch of expenses. They didn't know about like the payments of crypto and everything, but I just said, hey, we're going to pay you in July. I hope you're okay with that. And they were more than fine with that. And so we put that to rest. I need you guys to remember that 10,000 that was promised to my parents. There's a reason why I'm bringing it up. It's going to come back in the end. So now it's January of 2025. We are in this year, you guys. I promise this is coming to a close tomorrow, so get ready. But it's January 2025. We get the news that his green card has been approved, and we're so excited. And I remember just being over the moon. And one of the biggest reasons why we were excited is because our very, very best friends were getting married in March in Spain. So we were so hyped and excited to go celebrate them. And at first we didn't even know if we could go to the wedding. And so when the petition got approved, it meant that he can like travel out of the States. And so we're getting super excited. We weren't just going to Spain. We were also going to go to see his family in Denmark because his little nephew was getting baptized. And then we were also going to go to Portugal for 2 days to look at wedding venues. So this was a very, very exciting trip for us. And before you guys come for me, we were in what I thought was a great financial position, and we were up to date on our payments with crypto. So it was okay for us to go on these trips. So we have such an amazing time at the wedding. It was a very small, intimate wedding. There was 30 people there. It was perfect. And afterwards, we went and saw his family, went to his nephew's baptism, spent a lot of time with his extended family too. That was wonderful. And then we went to Portugal to look at venues. And I remember I set up a couple tours, and I made sure to be very mindful of cost because obviously I wanted us to be smart and I didn't want us to go over budget. And I remember having a conversation with him, telling him that, listen, I do not want this wedding if it's going to jeopardize your sobriety. So if we need to wait a year, if we want to renew our vows at year 5, we can do that. I do not want this wedding to put any pressure on you. And he said, you know, the business account's going to open up this summer. We're going to be okay. I promise. I don't want you to stress about that. And so I believed him and I trusted him. So we look at a couple different venues and we find one that we really like, and it's very reasonably priced. The deposit was only like 1,500 euros. And he said that his mom was going to actually pay for it. And I said, hey, that's fine. That works perfectly for me. So we get home and he said, you know, I just feel like it doesn't make sense for me to have $60,000 to $70,000 worth of watches. So I think I'm going to sell my watches. And I asked him, like, are you 100% sure? He said, yes, like it's unnecessary, especially with like us like trying to accomplish all of these financial goals, and just having these expensive watches just does not make sense. And so I 100% supported him. And so he packed up the watches in the boxes, and then he left the house and came back and was like, okay, I just took him to a showroom. I'm waiting for them to sell. Obviously I don't have the money yet, but hopefully they'll sell within the next, I don't know, like a couple weeks to a month. And I said, okay, that sounds good. So that was April of 2025. And in May of 2025, we decided that we wanted to build up his credit score so that we could maybe buy a house within the next couple of years. And his credit was basically zero because he had just moved to the States. And so I had a credit card that we had just paid off. It had a zero balance. And so I was like, okay, let's add you on this card. And so we added him, and he had no plans to even really use this card. It was just, for me to use for like groceries. We were just really trying to build up his credit. And so I looked at the balance one day, and it was super high, and I was so confused. And I started going through the details, and I saw that there was a cash advance for $7,000. And I was like, what is going on? Mind you, I'm not home. I had just finished a showing, so I'm in my car about to head home, and I call him, and I'm like, what is this cash advance? And I go, you better tell me the truth immediately. I do not want any bullshit. And he comes out and he tells me, I relapsed again. I've been gambling again. And that was the very first time that I just came out and asked him, and he said yes. And keep in mind, his last relapse was October. This was now June. And so obviously I'm hurt, I'm sad, but I'm also like so grateful that he told me the truth. I remember the first thing that came out of my mouth was, thank you so much for telling me the truth, because I just was grateful that he didn't automatically lie about it. So I come home, I'm obviously very upset, but I'm trying to meet him in a peaceful way because he is trying to be honest with me. So I walk into the house and I'm like, tell me everything. And he said, okay, well, I took a salary advance in May and I tried to recoup it. And I actually ended up selling the Rolexes and taking that money and gambling it away. And so I took the money from the cash advance to try to win it back. And I haven't spent it yet. I still have some of that. And you guys, this was such a weird experience because I was so angry and hurt that I was still going through this. But this was the first time that he was being open and honest with me, quote unquote. So I was grateful for that. So I told him, I'm like, okay, well, I just have to ask you a question. Is this because the business account doesn't exist? Like, I just don't understand why you would relapse when this money's coming. He goes, babe, like, you just don't understand gambling. Like, sometimes it happens and there's no rhyme or reason. And so I said, okay, I just need to confirm with you again. Is this business account exist? He said, 100% it exists. And I'm sorry. I promise you, like, if this feels different, like, just being able to, like, come forward to you, be honest with you. I feel like I really am changing and I want to be better. And this money's gonna hit, we're gonna have our dream wedding, and everything's gonna be okay. And so I believe him and I trust him. And then fast forward to July, I ended up having a bachelorette party for one of my good friends, Tracy. And while I'm at the bachelorette party, I knew the date of the hearing with the Danish IRS for his business account to open up. I knew that was going to be while I was on the bachelorette in the middle of July. And so I remember I was on the bachelorette and I woke up early on the second day I was there because I knew that was the day of the hearing. And I get a text from him and he says, call me when you can. And we will pick up the rest in part 20. And tomorrow is the grand finale. And I hope y'all are ready because it's about to get absolutely insane. The Danish Deception, part 20. So after today, all the parts will be fully completed, and I need y'all to just bear with me. This was a very traumatic and emotional experience for everyone that was involved, and so you're gonna see tears, and I'm gonna try to keep my composure as much as possible. So I'm on this bachelorette trip in the Bahamas, and the second day I'm there, I know that's the date of the hearing with the Danish IRS about the business account. And I'm very, very nervous. Like, obviously I had money in my bank account, but this business account was supposed to be what was gonna go towards crypto and paying for the wedding. And so I just wanted everything to happen the way it was supposed to happen. So I wake up that morning, he tells me, call me when you can. I pick up the phone, I call him, I step outside, and he actually has good news. And the good news is that the business account doesn't have 200,000, it actually has 300,000, and he hadn't been able to log into it for 18 months. And so he was very surprised that the account actually had more money than he thought. So I was so over the moon excited. I told him, I said, thank you so much for, making smart choices and, helping us build this foundation for us to start our lives together in Dallas. And he had told me he was on the phone with the bank for like 45 minutes, ironing out the plans. They closed down the business account and they were gonna just transfer him the amount of money that was owed to him. And so obviously I don't take his word for shit at this point. So I asked him, I'm like, can you send me a screenshot of the phone call? Like, I want to see the phone record. And so he sends me a screenshot and it shows that he was on the phone for 45 minutes. I type in the number in the screenshot that he sent me, and I put it into ChatGPT, and it said it was linked to his bank in Denmark. So I was like, okay, this is real. Why would you spend 45 minutes on the phone with the bank if this wasn't real? So at this point, I'm like, okay, finally there's truth to something he's saying, and I felt so much relief. So So after the Bahamas, my ex sends a text to my parents, and I'm in the group chat too, and he's saying, hey, I'll be able to send you the money by the end of this month. Can you please send me your banking information? And my mom says, of course, here it is, gives her bank information. Now we're at the end of July, and I asked him, hey, has the money hit? Has the money hit? Still hadn't hit. So what he said was, what I'll do is I'll send your parents the money on August 1st after I get paid from my job. But regardless, like that money is gonna hit at some point in August. And I said, okay, that's perfect. So beginning of August comes around and he tells me, hey, I just sent the money to your mom. And I said, okay, perfect. Can you please show me the screenshot? And he said, yes. And he showed me the screenshot and it said that the payment was scheduled for August 9th. So August 7th and 8th comes around. I tell my mom, hey, you're gonna receive the money by August 9th. And she said, okay, sounds good. So August 9th comes around and I ask her, hey, have you received it? And she said, no, I still have not received it. And so I was like, okay, that's weird. A couple of days go by and I'm like, have you received it yet? She said, I still have not received it. So now it's like August 12th and I'm on FaceTime with my mom just chit-chatting. And then I ask her, I go, hey, have you received the transfer from my ex? And she goes, no, I still haven't received it. And I'm on the couch with my ex and I look at him, I go, that's so weird. My mom still hasn't received the transfer. And he goes, that is weird. I go, can you pull up the screenshot again? He shows me the screenshot again. And it says that the payment is now scheduled for August 14th. And I'm a little confused because why is it scheduled for August 14th now? It was August 9th before and that doesn't make sense. So I asked him, I'm like, that's weird. He goes, that is weird. I don't know what's going on. And so regardless, at this point, it was like August 12th. So I was like, okay, we'll just wait and make sure she gets it by August 14th. So August 14th comes around. I call my mom, hey, did you receive the transfer? She still hasn't received the transfer. And I'm just like, what is going on? This is so weird and bizarre. But I'm not super concerned at this point. I just think that there's something weird going on. So August 15th comes around and he tells me that he doesn't know what's going on, but what he's gonna do is cancel the transaction and then send the 10K to me, and then I will then send the 10K to my mom. And I said, okay, perfect, that sounds good. So that Saturday, I went wedding dress shopping, and my very best friend Rebecca was in town visiting, and she was with her 3.5-year-old daughter, who's the sweetest. I've known her since she was a little newborn baby. She's so sweet. And this is the first time that my best friend Rebecca is coming to visit me in Dallas with her daughter. And so I was just so excited for them to be here and go wedding dress shopping with them. So we go wedding dress shopping on a Saturday, and my ex had told me that his mom wanted to pay for the wedding dress, and I was like, are you sure? He said, absolutely. Her birthday was actually the day before I went to go wedding dress shopping. And so he's like, I don't want to call her like on her birthday to ask her for money for your wedding dress, even though she's the one that brought this up and said she wants to pay for it. And I said, it's okay. I'll just pay for the dress. And then whenever your mom sends you the money, you can just send it to me. And then obviously I want to call her and tell her thank you, because I was surprised. I did not expect her to even offer to pay for it. So I was flattered. I thought it was so sweet. So I go pick out the wedding dress and I'm just so happy. I find the dress that I love. I put in the deposit for the dress. So Sunday comes around and my ex says that the $10,000 for my mom is going to hit his account on that Monday. And I said, okay, sounds good. I am starting to feel some red flags, but you know, I'm just like, let's wait till Monday and let's see how this plays out. So we go to church that morning on Sunday morning and we get back. And this is so interesting that I always have to mention this. After church, my ex comes to me and he tells me, you know, I really want to learn more about the Word of God. And I'm a Christian and I've always been a Christian. And he always told me, listen, like, despite my beliefs, I always will support you and your faith. And our kids will be brought up as Christians. We'll go to church. I'll always go to church with you. But this was the first time that he told me that he wanted to learn more about the Word of God. And I remember just being so excited. I was like, that's perfect. We're going to start doing Bible study like once a week together. And I was really, really excited for it. That day goes by and the next morning it's Monday. Keep in mind, my best friend and her daughter are still visiting me. So the next morning, my best friend Rebecca, she is at home because she has some work calls. And so we take her daughter to the park with Smokey and we're just walking around. And I ask him, like, has the $10,000 for my mom hit your account? And he said, no, it hasn't. And I told him, I go, listen, I'm feeling very triggered. I feel like you're lying to me. It should have hit your personal account by this point and it hasn't. And I'm feeling extremely, extremely triggered. And he said, well, I don't know what's going on. I promise, like, the money's there. It's going to be fine. And I was like, well, I don't know. I just feel like you're lying to me. So if there's anything that you want to come clean about, now's the time, just do it. And he said, what's the point of talking to you if you're just going to think I'm lying? I go, well, why do you think I always think you're lying? Because you lie all the time. And he says, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't walk together. I go, okay, maybe we shouldn't. So he walks back to the car, and I walk my friend's daughter with my dog, and I just like walk away, and we walk for a while, and then we go back to the car, and he's in the car talking to his mom. And as soon as I get in the car, he gets off the phone with his mom. And I was fully planning on telling her thank you for the wedding dress, and I thought it was weird that he hung up really quickly, and so that's another red flag. So we get home, and obviously we're fighting. I feel like he's lying to me. He's upset that I'm not believing him, and he ends up leaving the house because he's like, I'm gonna go to Costco. So while he's in Costco, obviously I'm just spiraling, and this is a moment where it hits me. I'm like, what if everything's a lie? And I don't know why, like, my subconscious has been thinking this all along, but this is the first time I fully am asking myself this question. And so I'm laying in my bed, and I start playing with the app Revolut, and I start looking at it. And that's the app that he sent the money to my mom. And obviously he sent me screenshots. I sent the screenshot to my mom to verify it's gonna be hitting on August 14th. And so I start playing around with the app, and I just, I wanted to see what it would be like if I wanted to send a big payment. And the way Revolut works is you have to load the money into Revolut before you can send it to anyone. So I'm just playing around with it, and I do a test transaction, and I'm trying to send $10,000 even though I don't have 10K in Revolut to send. So I click schedule payment, and I put just whatever date, and I see the next page, which is the review page. And that's when I realized that that was the same screen that he showed me and that I sent to my mom, saying that he sent the payment. And what he did was he cropped out the schedule payment button so it looked like he had sent the money, but he really did not. So at this point, my entire body is shaking, and he gets back from Costco, and I can't say anything because my best friend and her daughter are staying with us. So I'm trying to keep it chill, and keep in mind, this friend does not know anything that's going on. So after we unload the groceries, he's like, I'm gonna go upstairs and change and get ready for the gym. So I follow him upstairs, and I ask him, I said, I'm gonna ask you one question. Did you send that money to my mom? And he said, of course I did. I go, I'm gonna ask you again. Did you send that money to my mom? And he said, yes. And I pull up the screenshot that he sent me, and then I go back to Revolut, and I show him the exact same screenshot where he cropped the schedule payment button on the review page. And he said, our screens are different because I'm using a version from Denmark and you're using a version from the US. I go, you're using your US phone. So at this point, his lies are just getting bad. I'm like, you're lying about everything. I go, let's have a chat, and let's let all of this come to light and be done with it. And he said, I don't have time for this. I don't want to listen to this. And then he storms out of the house. And I will continue on in part 21.
My goodness, guys. I promise you the next part, guys, I promise you the next part is the last one. Like, the fact that this girl is going on, like, whatever is in the waters, whatever is going on, that she felt like she could go on with this wedding, even though she knows so well, and everything the guy says with his mouth, she's thinking it's a lie. Like, it's still beat me. She's going wedding dress shopping, like, am I the only... What? See, I now understand why a lot of people are dragging her online. I now understand, because spoiler alert, I really want to know what got to the point where it was the man, with all these things that we've heard so far. It's the man that called off this marriage. It's the man that ended this marriage. It's the man that asked for a divorce. I really want to see what got to that place where it was the man that did it, not her, because that's why I'm watching it bit by bit. Because I think that's where because that's what everybody's like, why? Guys, please let me know your take about this video down in the comment section. Go ahead, feel free, share your thoughts. I know this is long, okay, but go ahead and share your thoughts. Love to know what you think. Share this video with somebody that you want to be part of the conversation, because that's what we do here. We have banging conversation, okay? So go ahead and share your thoughts. Lord, I'm exhausted already. Okay, see you guys in the next one.